Buonasera a tutti. Grazie mille per essere qua anche noi questa sera. Intanto farei un applauso subito, inizia così ci scaldiamo, con Annie Warburton, che è qui davanti a noi, è arrivata apposta ieri sera, ha sfidato anche non è stata neanche tanto bene, è stata coraggiosissima, è qui con noi. E due parole due, usiamo i primi 10 minuti per un po' di informazioni, un po' di scambi, non più di 10 minuti, staremo nei tempi e allora intanto vi dico, per chi non conoscesse MtMG Guru, benvenuti per la prima volta, è un appuntamento che va avanti da 13 anni, con stasera chiudiamo il ciclo di quest'anno, 9 appuntamenti con personaggi internazionali di tutti i campi. Abbiamo parlato di nuovi linguaggi, abbiamo parlato di sviluppo della rete, abbiamo parlato di intelligenza artificiale, abbiamo fatto moltissimi excursus in tutte le direzioni e con le ultime due puntate, grazie a Innovation Craft Society che firma con noi anche questa seconda serata, abbiamo dato il vita a un ciclo, se possiamo chiamarlo così, intanto di 2 puntate, poi vedremo, perché con la banca IFIS e la Triennale di Milano, che ringrazio perché ci ospita in questo bellissimo spazio, ogni volta per me si ripete un po' una magia qua dentro, non so come mai, ma sento moltissimo questo spazio, e quando è così intenso di contenuti e di persone e di idee è bellissimo, vi assicuro che è proprio forte anche visto da questo lato, perché ogni volta mi emoziono. Dicevo appunto con Innovation Craft Society, che è questa task force creata da Banca IFIS insieme anche quindi con un comitato scientifico che è qui presente con noi, di cui fa parte anche Stefano Micheli, tra poco gli darò anche la parola. Abbiamo dato vita a queste ultime 2 puntate MtMG Guru per entrare dove? Dentro un tema che mi sembra di capire, visto l'affluenza e le adesioni che sono arrivate in queste settimane, ci interessa a tutti quanti, che poi è il tema del lavoro, del futuro del lavoro, dei cambiamenti nel mondo del lavoro e di che cosa vuol dire portare innovazione per di più digitale all'interno di realtà produttive come quelle che caratterizzano tanto il nostro tessuto produttivo, cioè il mondo artigianale, la manifattura di piccole e medie imprese di cui il nostro tessuto economico si avvale ed sono uno dei nostri punti di forza, e quindi con stasera vogliamo proprio entrare dentro questi argomenti e capire una serie di cose proprio grazie all'aiuto di Annie, che è venuta apposta ed è la direttrice creativa del Craft Council di Londra. Allora, ovviamente do un abbraccio a tutti i nostri partner che ci hanno sostenuto per 13 anni e che anche quest'anno sono insieme a MtMG Guru, e quindi Artemide, Fastweb, non vorrei dimenticare Fondazione Fiera, con i quali sono partner speciali, con i quali noi facciamo insomma apriamo delle scommesse di ricerca, di sviluppo, di contaminazione di idee, cerchiamo insomma di spingere questo benedettissimo tema dell'innovazione, innovazione che ovviamente MtMG Guru si occupa di questo, quello che a noi interessa è l'aspetto che ha a che fare con il tema del digitale, l'introduzione delle nuove tecnologie in tutti gli aspetti della nostra vita e in particolare del lavoro. Sul tema del lavoro non parlerò io, abbiamo una serie di personaggi, in particolare Annie, e anzi visto che usiamo questi momenti iniziali proprio come dire per conoscerci e per trasferire conoscenza, usiamo il nostro tempo introduttivo e inviterei volentieri subito qui il nostro assessore Tajani, perché è impegnata da tempo su un progetto che si chiama Manifattura Milano, non a caso diciamo poi il Comune di Milano è anche un nostro partner. Cristina, ti lascio la parola per introdurre questo progetto. Grazie.
Grazie. Ovviamente grazie a Maria Grazia Mattei che in tutti questi anni è riuscita ad animare la città di Milano, diciamo, portando tematiche che quando è cominciata questa avventura di MtMG Guru erano veramente pionieristiche. Gli amici e i frequentatori abituali di questa manifestazione sanno, per avermi vista anche in altre circostanze a questi eventi, che il Comune di Milano è un partner che crede molto nella tua iniziativa, e in alcuni casi e per alcuni incontri le convergenze, diciamo, tra il percorso politico-amministrativo del Comune e la riflessione che voi avanzate diventano più dense e più pregnanti. Il caso di stasera con la presenza di Annie è sicuramente uno di questi. Noi conosciamo il Craft Council che Annie guida nella città di Londra ed è sicuramente un oggetto di ispirazione per un programma di lavoro che tu hai già citato e hai già anticipato, che si chiama Manifattura Milano, che ha proprio lo scopo di incentivare e sostenere l'insediamento e il reinsediamento produttivo di tipo manifatturiero nella città, in grado di puntare sulle nuove tecnologie non soltanto per come dire, ravvivare e valorizzare un patrimonio diciamo di saper fare artigianale, artistico, che pure è presente nella città, ma anche per poter contribuire alla creazione di lavoro, come giustamente dicevi tu, attraverso nuovi insediamenti produttivi che facciano del digitale uno strumento per rivedere e ripensare la nostra manifattura. In sala ci sono persone che di questi temi diciamo ragionano e praticano da tempo. Il nostro programma oggi diciamo si è dotato anche, come voi, di un comitato scientifico, chiamiamolo così, noi lo chiamiamo Advisory Board, che è guidato da Stefano Micelli, il cui compito è già stato e sarà ancora di più nel futuro aiutare l'amministrazione anche a costruire delle policy concrete su almeno 3 assi che noi abbiamo individuato essere la formazione che accompagni questi processi produttivi, il tema della riqualificazione e rigenerazione urbana, perché sappiamo che spesso i nuovi spazi di lavoro sono anche spazi di città diciamo rigenerata, e il sostegno e l'incentivo alle attività economiche che vogliano e sappiano diciamo, costruire percorsi di innovazione in questo senso. Alcune delle azioni del piano sono diciamo, già in essere, altre saranno a venire nei prossimi mesi, ma sono sicura che con la serata di oggi e con lo scambio che insieme a MtMG Guru avremo nel futuro, avendo voi scelto diciamo, questo come uno degli argomenti di riflessione del vostro percorso, avremo modo poi di ragionare ancora e di aggiornarci diciamo, step by step dei progressi, spero, che faremo in questo senso. Quindi grazie e in bocca al lupo per la prossima edizione, grazie per l'opportunità di avere qui una persona che è di ispirazione anche per noi.
Cristina, grazie veramente, è un piacere averti qui con noi, perché questo è il luogo dove si dicono delle cose ma in realtà poi chi le racconta le fa, e questo è la nostra discriminante, cioè non solo parole ma anche fatti, e devo dire che non possiamo non dirlo, la città di Milano è veramente in movimento da questo punto di vista. Stefano, com'è? Milano è il top, hashtag top. A proposito, avete visto che potete ovviamente, come diceva la nostra sigla, twittare, commentare e mandare, anche con hashtag top se vogliamo. Stefano Micelli, intanto grazie per averci presentato, per aver presentato a MtMG Guru Annie, è lui che ce l'ha introdotta ed è ovviamente un grande esperto, ovviamente per chi non lo conosce, ma Stefano Micelli ha scritto dei libri interessanti, è un ricercatore attento su quelli che sono questi temi legati proprio all'artigianato, come dice Annie, al digital handmade, digital handmade, giusto? Giusto, l'ha rilasciato in un'intervista di recente, e Stefano è nel comitato scientifico del Innovation Craft Society. A questo punto svelaci tu meglio di come ho fatto io cos'è Innovation Craft Society.
Grazie, anch'io devo dire la verità, come Maria Grazia sono un po' emozionato questa sera perché la sala è piena e abbiamo un ospite che ha partecipato l'altro anno a uno dei seminari della mostra New Craft, e oggi la abbiamo di nuovo per portarci un contributo davvero originale dentro questa iniziativa che vede impegnate Triennale e Banca IFIS all'interno di questa nuova iniziativa che si chiama Innovation Craft Society. Spesso la parola artigianalità ha a che fare con qualcosa di polveroso, ne parlavamo prima proprio con Annie Warburton, una parola che sa di antico, che non ci proietta nel futuro. Noi siamo qui a dimostrare il contrario, siamo qui anzi a dimostrare come questo ingrediente, unito alla cultura del progetto, alla cultura del design, ha un impegno sul fronte dell'innovazione digitale, tecnologia, può davvero rappresentare un punto di forza nella crescita delle città, nella crescita delle nazioni. Questa sera l'emozione è ancora più forte perché quello che ci racconterà Warburton è direttamente collegato al progetto Manifattura Milano, all'iniziativa che il Comune sta portando avanti su un fronte, quello del lavoro, dell'occupazione, che oggi sentiamo un po' tutti in pericolo. Oggi percepiamo tutti la minaccia del digitale, l'intelligenza artificiale, tutti questi temi come più una minaccia che un'opportunità. Le cose che sentiremo da Warburton, da questo punto di vista sono felicissima che Triennale e Banca IFIS abbiano sostenuto questo invito, ci proiettano in un orizzonte completamente diverso, ci fanno pensare a un mondo in cui gli uomini, la tecnologia e la creatività stanno piuttosto bene insieme. Però io mi voglio fermare qua perché voglio ascoltare Anni, come immagino tutti voi. Grazie.
Grazie. Aspetta qua, Anni, adesso facciamo venire lei, accogliamola con un bel applauso, direttore creativo di Craft Council, che è questa istituzione britannica che sostiene tantissimo, valorizza la creatività, no? In campo artigianale, il nuovo artigianato, ma ha un curriculum fantastico perché inizia la sua carriera a Lublino lavorando nel Craft Council irlandese, poi ha tutto un excursus che la porta anche a occuparsi di arte, cosa non indifferente perché noi dobbiamo coniugare, no? In tecnologia, il saper fare, la bellezza, quindi l'arte, la sensibilità artistica, e infine nel 2014, quindi ha avuto vari incarichi proprio anche comitati internazionali tipo il CRITES, Skylset, eccetera. Nel 2014, dal 2014 è direttore creativo del Craft Council, che è una realtà tutta da scoprire, veramente molto interessante. Adesso noi diamo lo spazio a Dani, la scena è tua. Ciao, grazie.
Okay. Buonasera, good evening, and thank you all for joining us here today. Thank you, Maria Grazia, thank you to the Triennale, thank you to Milan and Cristina, and thank you, Stefano Macelli, for inviting me here today. I'm really, really pleased to be here. My translation wasn't working, and I don't speak Italian, so you could have said anything about me. So now I have even more of an incentive to learn Italian. I hope you'll bear with me. I've been a little bit ill, so my voice is a little bit croaky, but I'm hoping that it will survive our time together. So I'm the creative director at the Crafts Council of the United Kingdom. We're nearly 50 years old, and it's our job to advance the cutting edge of new making and bring that to new audiences. Tonight, I'm especially going to talk to you about innovation in craft and innovation through craft. So I'm going to talk about how makers, artisans, are using new materials, new tools, new processes, adopting those, mashing them up with the traditional processes to create new kinds of works. So that's innovation in craft. But I'm also going to talk about innovation through craft. And what that is makers collaborating in other sectors with technologists, with engineers, with scientists, with medical researchers to generate new innovations in those sectors. So I'm going to cover all of those topics. But before I get there, I imagine some of you are thinking, well, wait a minute, isn't craft something a bit like this? Isn't it old stuff? Isn't it very traditional techniques? Okay, making very beautiful objects, but using techniques, materials, processes that have been with us for centuries. Well, yeah, that's true. That's part of craft, yeah? And this still exists. It still has value. Not all of craft is about the cutting edge and the leading edge and about innovation. This has value. But what I hope will surprise, interest, delight, and intrigue you tonight is how craft is connecting with new technologies to revolutionize how we use and think about those technologies, how it's transforming what we make, where we make it, how it's made, and who makes it. We really do have a revolution on our hands. I'm going to take you through a story for about 45 minutes, and then I hope we'll have lots of questions and conversation about this new craft. So, let me give you an example, and in a way it's a kind of low-tech, high-tech example, but it's one of my favorites. These are a couple of images from a team of researchers at Cornell University in the United States. I invite you just mentally to imagine what material you think they might be working with. I am going to bet my next glass of wine when after this that no one has got it right. This is graphene, the 2D super material that was first isolated in Manchester by a team of scientists who went on to win the Nobel Prize. This particular application of graphene is using a craft technique called kirigami. It's a Japanese technique. You can guess from the name. It's related to origami. It's paper cutting. So what this team of researchers are doing is that they're working with the 2D super material. They're using a craft technique, paper cutting technique, to make 3D micro components that have all of those properties that graphene has, like superconductivity, complete lightness, and almost weightlessness, and to make those expandable springs and electrodes. So this is a kind of interesting example of where techniques mash up. Now, I want to argue that this notion of craft being on the leading edge is nothing new. It's always been with us. This image is from another team of American researchers, actually, this time at Columbia University, led by Pamela Smith. It's called the Making and Knowing Lab, and they're working with Edgar Zissel's theory. Zissel was a sociologist of science, and what he posited was that it was the connection of scholarship and hands-on craftsmanship that led to our modern notion of experimental science back in the 16th century. Pamela Smith and her colleagues are working with a manuscript from the 16th century and looking at the experimental techniques, the risk-taking, the mistakes, the note-taking, and looking at how do we recreate that to inject a new inventiveness into current science. I'm going to come back to that theme later on, so keep it in mind. A couple more examples. There on the top right is a Qing Dynasty Chinese Abacus ring. I'm going to argue that this was the first computer wearable, right? On the left, many of you will recognize the work of Josiah Wedgwood. He was a pioneer in 18th century British ceramics. And this is really just to illustrate how people working with their hands, working with materials, making, have always been on the leading edge. Wedgwood brought together a mashup of creative techniques and curiosity and experimentation with a scientific interest and a brilliant business brain. He was really the first person to pioneer the catalogue, which is a kind of marketing staple now, whether now it's online, but you know, he was the first guy to do that. He was also honoured with being appointed to the United Kingdom's Royal Society. That's our preeminent academy of science, not making, not creativity, but science. And this is because he pioneered the pyrometer, which was an instrument used to measure temperature within the high temperatures within a kiln. But he also developed new materials. Here we're seeing some of his basalt ware. He was also famous for jasper ware. So this is just to kind of warm us up to this idea that craft is experimental, it's innovative. And of course, on the right there is Charles Babbage's analytical engine. Babbage famously prototyped with Ada Lovelace the first computer, and his computer was inspired and then coded using similar cards to a jacquard loom. So we've got weaving and computing right there together at the beginning. What's less known, that story about Babbage and weaving is fairly well known, but what's less known was that he was also really inspired by automata, by mechanical machines, which of course were really fashionable in his time. On the right there, we have the silver swan, which is in the Bowes Museum in England. It's a very, very famous automaton by the really rather marvelously named John Joseph Merlin. Now Merlin, before he made this, had made a silver woman who I understand might have been quite alluring, and on her hand she had balanced a silver bird that took off and took flight. Now Babbage saw this woman as a young boy and was beguiled by this automaton, and he wrote later in his notebooks that was seeing her that inspired his work in early computing. Now we see this connection between early automata and modern technology in Japanese culture as well. I'm taking you to the image on the left now. The Japanese tradition of automata, or kariguri, is noted as having inspired Japan's work in contemporary modern-day robotics. Now, that country is the world's leader in robotics, and they draw a direct cultural connection between the two. So, just waiting for my slide. Oh, there we go. So, I've talked about this connection between craft and technology and of it being always there. So what's happening now? Well, we're seeing makers working in all materials using new digital processes and techniques. I don't have time to go through all of these works. Many of them are in the Crafts Council collection. But you can see that makers are using digital fabrication technologies combined with their deep learnt 10,000 hours of craft skill in metal, in wood, in ceramics, in glass, in textiles. The digital tools are revolutionizing objects, right? But in a sense, these are quite conventional objects, and I want to take us now on a much more expansive journey of this connection between the digital and the handmade. And I'm going to start, first of all, with how makers are experimenting with new materials. We're seeing a combination of, as I said earlier, new materials, new tools, and new processes. This is Natsai Audrey Chiesa. She's based in the UK. She's a graduate of Central St Martin's. And what she's holding up there is a textile that's dyed with pigment formed by bacteria. Now, Natsai has collaborated with a lot of big companies in automotive, like Nissan, and in technology and in digital communications. But what really drives her is how can we find a way to reduce the waste used by chemical pigmentation and the pollution caused by that. And that's a theme I want to pick up later on. Natsai's work is currently in an exhibition at Bauhaus Dessau, which is exploring both the connection between contemporary craft and making and the founders of the Bauhaus movement, who were using craft techniques to prototype and connect with industry. So again, we're seeing this historical thread. Natsai also exhibited as part of a show that we at the Crafts Council put on last month called The New Materiality, which was at Basel in September. So this is really what the theme I'm talking about here is, the new materiality. And we're seeing this experimentation with new materials in all kinds of different ways. On the left there, you have the work of Amy Congdon, who's also come through the Central St. Martin's course, as it happens. She works with biodesign, synthetic biology, and tissue engineering, but was originally trained as a textile designer. So she's looking at that connection between embroidery and biodesign, which, when I'm meeting friends outside of my professional sphere and I tell them about that, that kind of blows their mind. On the right there, we've got Maurizio Montalti's work. I'm sure many of you are familiar with his work. He exhibited as part of the New Craft exhibition last year, curated by Stefano Michelli. He is working with mushroom mycelium. Now we're seeing a big trend for the use of this material and make us questioning, what does it mean to grow something, to grow an object, to biofacture an object or work, rather than to make it, or what is the connection between making, what are the ethics of that? There are many, many makers exploring this territory as it happens. Another is Sebastian Cox, who is a fairly new but very, very successful furniture maker in the United Kingdom. He collaborated with someone to make these works, again from mushroom mycelium, that he debuted at the London Design Festival again last month. And his question is, how do we take these experiments with mushroom mycelium from the art object into product design? How do we scale it up, actually, is the question he's asking. And then James Shaw, and this will kind of take me from a bridge from materials to tools. Now, James, on the right, produced a product called the Well-Proven Chair. He was curious about the fact that between 50 and 80% of wood material used in furniture manufacture goes to waste. That's a huge amount, 50 to 80%, that's massive. So he was experimenting, along with Marianne van Eubel, as to what happens if we combine that waste, whether it be sawdust or shavings, with a bioresin. And what he found was that it expands to create a kind of foam-like material. So in a way, this is about sustainable design. Slightly more recently, he's produced this work, which is here on my left, called the Plastic Baroque. Again, looking at how do we use plastic, which is obviously a waste material in some senses, but a ubiquitous material. How might we use it in a different way? And he developed this kind of extruding gun that we have in the center. Now, James, again, featured in the exhibition last month in Basel in Switzerland, where we were exploring this experimentation with new materials. So, I'm going to take us on to tools. Many of you will be familiar with this. It's a L'artisan Electronique from the Netherlands-based studio Unfold. It was shown in Milan a few years ago. But really, this I adore this image. I think it's iconic because it's that connection between the haptic, the tactile, the hand, and the digital, an interface for how do we make things digitally. Now, this has become, since this was launched, an increasing trend. This is Gravity Sketch 3D. it's a tool for creating an interface for designers and for design between virtual reality or augmented reality and the real world. It's a tactile design tool. It's looking at how do we create an interface for collaboration that captures the intelligence of the hand, the embodied intelligence, what we often talk about as tacit intelligence, that it's hard to speak about. I'm trying foolishly to talk about it for 45 minutes. So this is Gravity Sketch 3D. This is another application of it. I think this is a really exciting innovation. And what's really important, because some of you might be thinking, well, isn't that just digital, or isn't it just design? All of the makers, thinkers, designers that I'm presenting today connect with craft and with craftsmanship, with making with the hand. This is what unites them. Now, they might identify with many different labels or no labels at all, but it's that intelligence of the hand that's the theme, the golden thread that runs through this. So this is a new project by a studio called Commonworks, which is really taking another angle on the project I've already shared from Unfold. This is called Miko. It's a play on Ceramico. They've come out of Makerversity in London's Somerset House. And again, it's a digital interface, as you'll see, for designing and creating ceramics, in this case, and customizing them, but also then made with a combination of digital and hand-based processes. So the interface can draw in data from social media, from location data, or as you can see from your phone. This is quite a simple example, but it's an interactive interface where the user can design their own object. And what we're seeing with the new technologies is that it means that we can have, we often hear about mass customization. So there's a chance to design your own thing, but the margins, the marginal cost of making one more unique thing have reduced almost to zero. This is another example. It's obviously in a different material. It's textiles. This is the company Unmade. Last year, they won the Design Museum's Beazley Design of the Year, or they're nominated for it among many that were shown in that exhibition. And as you can see, the user, the customer, can use a digital interface to adapt the design within a parameters set by a designer, and then create their design and order it, and then it's sent over to them. It's fabricated and then sent. Now, what's really interesting about this is that in the garment manufacturing industry, around 30% of inventory goes to waste because people are trying to predict what the customer is going to buy. That's a lot of landfill. And the difference that this makes is that there's zero waste. So although it's a digital story, it's also, to me, an environmental story. So that's Unmade. The other thing I'd like to share with you about them is that, again, the team who are behind Unmade are coming from a variety of disciplines. There are physicists, there are computer scientists, and there are textile designers and makers, bringing their skills together, fusing their skills to create a new innovation. So this is another theme I will pick up during the evening, is this combination of different skills and different mindsets. Another example of this global, local manufacture, and I think we heard a little bit about that during the introduction, is OpenDesk. Now, OpenDesk is a platform for designers who create designs that are then ordered and manufactured locally. So it connects makers and maker spaces with the customer and with the designer. So again, instead of transporting materials or finished products, what we're transporting between countries are bits and bytes, data. We're transporting data and designs. You can see its global reach is already huge. Now, I have to confess, this is a slide I made and used a couple of months ago. I haven't updated it. I'm sure there are many more little tags and markers on it now, because this is proliferating at a very, very fast rate. Another example of this kind of platform is Kniterate. We're coming back to garment manufacture. This is a platform for uploading and sharing knit designs that are then communicated to a desktop digital knit machine. So it's all about collaboration between makers and between designers. There's an interactive aspect to it. Again, you can hack and change your designs to suit you. But again, rather like the other example, within the parameters of the designer. So what does this all mean? This is what we asked ourselves at the Crafts Council. We've been looking at this space for about the last decade, and we've been doing it in different ways, through exhibitions, through action research projects, bringing together makers and experts from different fields, through education programs. But last year we thought, well, we actually really want to understand what's the economic impact of this. What difference does it make? So we worked with, as you can see, KPMG to do research based both on a survey and a number of case studies with companies like the motor manufacturer Bentley, to examine what is the real impact of this? Is it just cool stuff, or is it making a difference? And what KPMG concluded was that the economic impact of craft is already significant, and when combined with other industries, has huge potential. Now, they also recognize that there are a number of barriers to achieving that potential. And this was what we asked them to investigate. We said, where can we invest? What can we do to really harness this trend to grow? And I'm going to come back to this later on, so this is a little preview. We decided that we wanted to communicate this story and this strategy through a visual infographic, to look at how do we move from a culture of innovation happening through happy accident to strategic investment to create an innovation culture that brings together the intelligence of science, the intelligence of culture, the intelligence of humanism, and the intelligence of the hand and of creativity. I'll come back to that, as I said. But also what we found was that beyond the purely economic, this trend of innovation through craft is creating tremendous value in other spheres, and I'm going to take you through those. So it's having an impact on health and well-being, on environmental sustainability, as we've already heard to an extent, and also in social innovation. This is a huge trend that's having an impact on all of our lives. And these are I don't know if there's the same translation in Italian, so forgive me, but in the UK, these are problems that we call wicked problems. Problems that one expert can't solve by themselves, or one set of expertise can't solve for themselves. We need to bring together those different mindsets if we're going to solve them. This is probably my biggest message for the whole evening. I'm going to talk about in a moment the work on the right, but just to touch very briefly on the left, it's a project called RoboFold, which again is an origami, or this time origami, not kirigami, but an origami influenced technique where Gregory Epps, who founded it, used origami techniques and a robotic tool to fashion these quite amazing structures. And if you hear him speak, he will say he couldn't possibly have done this without understanding the mechanics of paper through his hands first. This work here, that's a detail of it, it's actually quite monumental and sculptural, was work that he made for the late Zaha Hadid architect. So, health and well-being. A couple of, to me, very familiar examples. They might or might not be familiar to you. The first is the Raptor hand, which is a crowdsourced 3D digital printed prosthetic hand. Now, one of the really exciting things, as many of us know about 3D printing, additive manufacture, is that it's transformed prosthetics. Beforehand, it was too expensive to make prosthetics, especially for younger children, because they would grow so fast, right? Whereas 3D printing and designing and customizing it for a young person is affordable. So the Raptor hand is a brilliant example of that, and one we also featured in an exhibition a couple of years ago. On the left is some work by the glass artist Matthew Durran. Matt worked with researchers at the Royal Free Hospital in London who were working on the first tissue-engineered tracheotomy. They had worked with a scientific glass maker. The glass kept failing. They were trying to build a scaffold on which to grow the cells and the tissues. Kept failing. They said, well, why don't you work with an artist who might bring a different mentality? Have you thought about that? And the scientist said, no, of course we haven't thought about that. But okay then. So to cut a long story short, they collaborated and they did pioneer the first tissue-engineered tracheotomy. They're now, as you might guess, working on a nose. Sarah Babu, whose image was in the earlier slide, creates what he calls architectured materials, often on a micro scale, again 3D printed or sintered, 3D sintered, that then are used as medical implants or automotive components, as well as many other applications. Again, he would describe himself as bringing a craft and engineering mindset together, that understanding of materials through the hand connected with an engineering intelligence and knowledge. This is one of my favorites. This is a 3D printed heart. Lungs, actually. There was also a 3D printed heart. This is Richard Arm, who is at Nottingham Trent University. He presented this at our conference, Makeshift, just after breakfast, which was quite interesting, and he handed these organs out around the audience. They were fascinating. And what he's producing them for is for training for surgeons, because these 3D printed simulacrums are much more like a body. They're much more like the real experience of being a surgeon than working on a human cadaver. So it means that they can they move, they pulse, they have volume, they're slippery, and so on. And so it means that surgeons have the chance to really learn what their future experience will be. And also the beauty of these is that they can be repairable so that they can be used for training again and again. I think it's astonishing, and certainly not what I would first think about when I'm thinking about 3D printing. This is another medical application, which is a collaboration that the Crafts Council brought together. 4 years ago, we looked at, as I said, this trend of makers innovating in new sectors. And we wanted to create an opportunity for those makers to come together with others. And in this case, we brought together the embroiderer Karina Thompson. I'm sorry that the video doesn't seem to be working. The embroiderer Karina Thompson with a soft robotics expert, Matthew Howard. They worked on developing electronic sensors that would pick up muscle movements that could be used in health applications or in sport applications. And Matthew, who is a roboticist, will say, if he were here talking, he would say that Karina's thinking brought a completely different breakthrough to how they use the textiles and the sensors. They're now collaborating with a team in the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa to use those sensors to pick up muscle movements, again, for amputees' prosthetics. So it's a really exciting application of these two different modes of thinking. I think my thing might have been, okay. So I'm going to move on to the theme of environmental sustainability. We've already heard quite a bit about that when I was talking about Unmade in the bottom left corner, and also James Shaw. On the top left there is Pinatex, which is a new material, a non-woven textile leather substitute by the designer Carmen Hioza. And what Carmen does is that she's using another waste product from pineapples, in this case, to make a new kind of textile that is, of course, environmentally sustainable and ethical. She won the Arts Foundation Material Innovation Award last year. Big business is already onto this. This is Adidas's Future Craft project. I think it's a really fascinating choice of name by a huge design and manufacture an apparel firm. They are using 3D printing technology for the soles. They're creating uppers from spider silk, but they're also using, with their Parley trainers, waste plastic and recycling it, for waste plastic from the oceans. I talked earlier about redistributed manufacture. Again, big business is onto this. Amazon, back in, I think it was April, won a patent for locally produced garments, so a redistributed manufacturing model. I haven't included that in detail in this presentation, but I think it's really interesting how the big corporates are cottoning onto this. And finally, social innovation. This is making a big impact, the Fab Lab movement, and also the Maker Library Network, which is a global network of maker spaces that are not only about making, but also about exhibiting, and also about, hence the name library, about reading, about a peer-to-peer exchange of skills locally in that Fab Lab, but also globally through the network. And there are a set of rules for the maker spaces, a set of guidelines, and then of course there's a lot of freedom within those guidelines. So that means that you can both have a maker library in a space like a library, like an institution, or like a community space, but you can also have it in a caravan, which is the maker library in Edinburgh. And again, just to pick up on that theme of big business, Barclays Bank in the United Kingdom, which is a retail bank, a consumer bank with branches on the high street, is starting to invest in maker spaces on the high street. I think that's a really fascinating trend. So makerspaces, this is our traditional image of them, using things like 3D printers, CNC mills, and so on. But also, this social revolution is happening just as much in very traditional crafts. There's a big movement at the moment for social enterprises that are working with people who are disadvantaged, whether it be that they're a refugee, or whether it be that they are long-term unemployed or rehabilitating in some way. We've got on the left Gal Gale, which is a boat building social enterprise in Glasgow, and on the right a practice called Out of the Dark, which teaches young people who are at risk of exclusion to restore furniture. I've got many good stories about that, but I don't have time for it. But if you're intrigued by that, grab me later on. And a couple more examples of these socially innovative projects. On the top is Kukula, which is a project working with refugees in Berlin, again teaching furniture making. Below that is a workspace in Cape Town, South Africa, where long-term unemployed people are develop making skills, but also Craig Dunlop, who founded this project, is as passionate about the skills of, simply for all of us, of being human, that one learns through making. And certainly when I personally have interviewed apprentices, from example, Out of the Dark, what they speak about is, they're 16, 17, but they're saying, I've learned that it's okay to make a mistake, because actually that's how you learn. And that's another theme that I want to bring out in this presentation, is the what we call in England the workmanship of risk. It was coined by a theorist of craft called David Pye, and he contrasts the workmanship of risk, the responsiveness to a material that you can't quite control, and you might make a mistake, and the mistake might be the thing that leads you to a breakthrough. He contrasts that with the workmanship of certainty, which is the automated manufacture, and he doesn't really use the word craft, actually. He uses workmanship of risk. And on the left there is another social enterprise, Granby Workshop, which was a Liverpool community who brought in the architecture collective Assemble to work with them to develop new products in a very depleted area of Liverpool. We supported that work 3 years ago. It went on to be nominated and presented as part of the Turner Prize, the UK's greatest fine art prize, and it went on to win the Turner. So this is a really interesting social enterprise working with craft and manufacture techniques, with an architecture collective winning a fine art practice. So the boundaries between everything are blurring. This is one further example of this social innovation and its connection back to design. This is Bethany Williams, fairly recent graduate, this time from the fashion course at Central St Martin's. She's made a big splash at London Fashion Week. She's working with food banks in the United Kingdom and with supermarkets, and recycling both clothing, but as you can see here, cardboard, and she's formulating, working with traditional weavers, garments made from woven cardboard. So it's, in a sense, it's fashion, in a sense, it's speculative, but it's deeply rooted in how do we connect what we make to the people and communities that we are. Her work is really inspiring, and I would commend it to you, as indeed all of this. So I promised that I would come back to this, because all of this is happening, but what do we do about it? How do we harness it? How do we make it grow? Let me take you through the detail of this. What we posited was that craft has a certain set of features that are unique to it when they're in combination. Okay, that's key, when they're in combination. So it's there's a care for quality and excellence combined with an ingenuity. There's a sense of empathy, of embodied knowledge, of a human sensibility. And that's really important when we're starting to talk about robotics, for example. That's combined with a problem-solving mindset. And what I was talking about just now about the experimentation, the risk-taking, the iterative processes. And of course, with craft, you have a deep material specialism. You understand materials. Now, if you were a material scientist, you'd say, hey, I have a deep material specialism. Or if you were a computer coder, you might be saying, I'm working in an iterative way. Of course, these qualities aren't, it's not craft that only has these qualities. But I would argue that those in combination are unique to craft, those together. And then if we take you sort of to the sort of upper left of that diagram, what we've said is if you bring those qualities together and you combine them with an entrepreneurial mindset and the opportunities that Industry 4.0 give us, then you create the conditions for growth. We identified a number of sectors where there's particular potential: robotics, biotechnology, the Internet of Things, digital technology, and high-value manufacturing. But we also identified that there are some barriers in the way of achieving that potential. And those are, first of all, lack of awareness, which is why it's really wonderful to be here today, because a lot of this stuff no one very much knows about. So we need to keep telling these stories, giving these examples. So lack of awareness. Lack of opportunity for makers to meet scientists, physicists, mathematicians, engineers, technologists. We need to create more opportunities for people to come together. And in the UK, at least, we have a bit of a crisis in creative design education. I don't have time to go deeply into that, but that's a serious problem for us as well. So, if we can overcome those barriers, and I'll come to that in a moment, by creating opportunities for collaboration, raising awareness, like today, and investing in training and education, then we will reap the rewards. Now, this particular infographic focuses on the economic rewards of more innovation and better innovation that develops new products and services, that reaches new markets or generates new markets. This is all economic. But as you've heard me say, it's equally important for health, for social welfare, for the environment. Yeah, so it's economic and all of those things. So this is a good thing, right? So the strategy is to move from, as I said, this current on the right, happy accident of many of the stories that I've told you about those collaborations. They happen through people meeting each other at events like this. That's great. But if you don't happen to meet the person, then we've got wasted opportunities. So let's invest strategically in those collaboration opportunities in education and in raising awareness, so that we move from the happy accidents into creating an innovation culture. So in sum, really what I'm talking about is power of making. This exhibition was before I joined the Crafts Council, actually, but was very inspirational to me. It was at the V&A Museum, and it was the most visited free exhibition in that museum. Now, of course, David Bowie, which you had to pay for, had many more visitors, but for free exhibitions, it was the most visited one. And it told much of a similar story to the one I've just been telling. And, you know, of course, we've been moving this forward with things like the New Craft exhibition here in Milano. So really, if this talk is about anything, it's about how do we harness that power of making? How do we combine those different intelligences and mindsets? How do we harness the intelligence of the hand and marry it with numerical intelligence, with a literary intelligence, with historical knowledge? How do we bring all of those different ways of thinking together? I talked earlier about the Making and Knowing Lab in Columbia University. We're seeing more and more of, especially in universities, of these combinations. This is the same project here that we at the Crafts Council supported with King's College London, bringing makers together with physicists, with medics, with mathematicians. We're seeing it at places like the Institute of Making, which is a lab, if you like, for anyone studying at University College London. It, again, has medics, it has engineers, it has physicists, and it has artists all coming together. You can work low-tech or you can work high-tech. It's got a materials library. It's a place where these mindsets come together. And coming in the spring, Harvard University is opening up what it's called the Minding Making Lab. So it wants to reinstate the value of making as an intelligence of equal value to the kind of more abstract thinking, and that bringing these together, it brings me right back to Zilzel and his idea of the emergence of experimental science. So we're seeing this a lot. I'm making a case for thinking by doing. It's not the only way of thinking. It's not the most important. There is no most important. But it's each of those different kinds of thinking we need to bring together. And in the UK, at least, the thinking by doing at the moment is undervalued. I'm making a case for a mindset that's about playfulness. This is a little detail from this exhibition that's just completed at Hull, which is this year's UK City of Culture, that we curated, called States of Play, which is about the playful attitude that making brings, and of playfulness as a way of engaging with the world, of understanding the world, and of generating new solutions to the problems that face us. And I'm making a case that William Morris, who is perhaps the father of craft in the United Kingdom, much misunderstood, made over a century ago. And I bring you to that bottom quote. He talks about the sort of imagination of how we live and how we might live. What's our aspiration? What's our vision for the future? And he talks about embodiment of dreams, so bringing the ethereal dream right into the body, right into the physical, into form, into one form or another. So, to do this, we need to inspire the next generation. I said I couldn't talk about our crisis in education. I can't. But next weekend, we are opening up maker spaces right across the United Kingdom. Over 40 of them will be open for a public day of making, discovery, and learning. Our project is called Makeshift Do. It's a national festival of new making. Because we need to think about that new generation. Because if our future is in the making, then it's in our hands. Thank you.
Questa chiusura perfetta. Grazie, Annie. Bene, io adesso ho preso tanti di quegli appunti che poi alla fine proverò a tirare le fila. Bellissimo racconto, l'ispirazione, la forza, ci fa capire che possiamo andare veramente anche noi in questa direzione, insistendo ancora di più a osservare questo corrente, come l'ha chiamata lei, che poi diventa anche una cosa concreta, che si trasforma in economia e in benessere in tutti i sensi. Allora aprirei alle domande, perché secondo me qui ci sono persone che hanno delle richieste da fare ad Annie. The question time. No?
Okay.
Prego. Chi prende la parola? Prego. Ti do io intanto questo. Presentate.
Paolo Manfredi, hi, and thank you very much. And it was a terrific presentation, very inspirational. Just one question. How is the marketability of solutions? Or in your chart you spoke about market as something that is placed in the future. But how is the marketability of the solutions? How is time to market for these solutions present in your work?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is a crucial question. As I said, some big businesses are already getting involved, and they're looking at how do they aggregate the smaller businesses, because craft businesses in general are small businesses. But those platforms, the digital platforms, are enabling those makers to reach global markets. So if I take the example of OpenDesk, that is reinvigorating local workshops literally around the world, because they're connecting through that digital platform the customer and the maker. Now, it's just like any growth business, we need more investment through people understand that you need to invest in digital startups. We need to invest in these physical digital startups as well.
Prego, una domanda qua. Ilaria Bonetti, ti presento io.
Thank you. I work for the Chamber of Commerce of Milan. So at the moment we are dealing with a very important program, which is the Industry 4.0 plan. So how do you suggest a way to attract very small companies to be more digital, to be more innovative? Because the main challenge for us is that of reaching this kind of subject, because the big players, they started already a long time ago.
Yeah.
We need to go towards the smallest, and I saw a lot of interesting things in this combination of design and crafts. So is there any suggestions you can provide to try at least involving these very small companies? I'm talking about companies that are mainly 1-2 people,
Yes.
3, so very, very small organizations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
The profile of the companies in the UK is exactly the same. The tiny micro or more than micro businesses, sole traders. And they can be hard to reach. I think partly it's about being a translator, of understanding their language, talking their language, showing them, of course, the business opportunity. Bringing together, what we find is the more and more that we bring together smaller businesses into communities, actually the peer-to-peer exchange is as important as the rest. But I think it's about using examples so that people can see, oh, okay, I get that this can apply to my business. You could also tell that I've learnt tonight Milano is top, so that's what I heard earlier, so I've learnt this.
Grazie, ma io aggiungo anche quello che ho sentito prima, che l'ho trovato molto molto interessante, questo invito a mi sembra di capire che la Craft Council opera in questa direzione, a diffondere esempi, a costruire continuamente punti di incontro e di scambio di esperienze. E poi trovo molto interessante questo aspetto del bridge tra tutte le competenze, quindi cercare di unire competenze diverse in questo mix di scambio per una crescita, no? Per uno sviluppo innovativo, che non è come dirlo, però voglio dire, noi per esempio con MtMG Guru da 13 anni proviamo a seminare idee, a mettere a confronto persone eccetera, perché la cultura dell'innovazione, partiamo di cultura digitale, cultura dell'innovazione è importante che cresca, è nello scambio e nel continuo racconto di esperienze. Ovviamente servono anche i sostegni e gli incentivi, ma da questo punto di vista Ilaria ha detto bene, insomma la Camera di Commercio opera adesso sempre di più con un progetto, no? con il nostro attuale governo per sviluppare questo tema del lavoro e di un'industria 4.0, insomma di un'impresa 4.0, perché quando parliamo di industria 4.0 poi ci vengono in mente le grandi imprese, le imprese robotizzate, appunto come diceva prima Stefano Micelli, ci viene l'ansia e la paura che questo digitale tolga il lavoro. Io trovo bellissimo nel suo intervento esattamente la dimostrazione del contrario, di come si liberi una creatività e si incrocino dei saperi per generare imprese nuove, contenuti nuovi. Quindi è la diffusione, lo scambio mi sembra un bel motivo, insomma, per una bella pista da percorrere per incrementare e far crescere la cultura dell'innovazione. Altre domande? Qui? Dov'è il qui? Ecco, qua dalla rete immagino anche che, no? Prego?
Ok.
Sì.
Martina Genovesi from Material Connection Italia. I had a curiosity about the contamination of the mindset of the two words you're talking about, because in my experience, as I get to know some Fab Lab and Make Lab, it was like a spontaneous birth of this reality. They were and they are set on open data and the belief of sharing both information, technique, and know-how. And in your presentation, you show how right now they are working with companies, so people that they sell information, they sell technique. Mm-hmm. So they are two different kind of mindset, getting to know each other. Mm. And did you experience some kind of contamination between the two?
Mm-hmm. I think, again, I don't know if there's the equivalent in Italian, but in the UK we talk about T skills, like a T shape, yeah? So you have your depth of experience, of your specialism, but you also have a bit of breadth, so you can connect with people with a different mindset. And within either individuals or in teams, that the kind of the magic that creates a great new breakthrough is where you've got that T combination. And so, yeah, you know, when you bring together someone with a technology or an entrepreneurial mindset with someone who's a maker, quite often that can be a clash of cultures. But I think there's a generational shift, and more there are people blurring the boundaries between those different mindsets and combining them in new ways. And I think there's a big trend towards that.
C'è qualche domanda? Sì? Non si vede con queste lampade.
Ok, here. Maria Grazia.
Sì?
Maria Grazia.
Prego.
Ecco. Hi, my name is Barbara Pino. I'm here from Chile. I'm here
Welcome.
with... Thanks so much. Grazie mille per il tuo invito. Thanks so much for the beautiful speech. We are here with 16 students from our faculty, Design and Architecture. Of course, we are coming from South America. We are not really a country really developed in this type of things. We are trying to. We are not really as developed as the whole Europe. So, can you please give us an advice or some, I don't know if it can be like a tip or some like vision about for emerging countries that are trying to go in this trip, we can say.
I think in terms of a vision, I think an emerging country actually has an advantage if you want to, because you're not, like in the UK, we are hampered by quite an old mindset of what craft is or what making is, and you know it's part of my job to dissolve that old mindset. But I think, and I don't know your country, so but I think from what I see, certainly in certain African countries, is that there is a freshness of thinking and a new ingenuity, a new hunger to find new solutions that isn't restricted by an old mindset. So I think that that's a real advantage if you want it to be. That's all I can offer.
Beh, c'è spazio forse ancora per una domanda, poi ci piace sempre rompere le righe e ritrovarci in maniera meno separata, a parlare ancora un po' insieme. Quindi se c'è ancora una domanda per Annie, dalla rete, sono stati vari collegamenti, ho visto scorrere abbiamo trasmesso la puntata di questo MtMG Guru Innovation Craft Society in streaming. Beh, ecco, chiudiamo con Stefano.
Annie, I had a question. We've been listening to your fantastic speech, and we realized that you've been able to put together craftsmen and universities, top researchers. This is something that we're not so acquainted with in Italy, at least. We do see universities on the one hand, and we see craft people on the other. You know, it seems that you have been able to cross, you know, to create a bridge between these two worlds. And this seems to be working fine. You know, even Harvard, this is what you mentioned, is thinking about programs that, you know, fill this gap. Do you have a suggestion for us? You know, with a few exceptions in Italy, you know, the distance between university world and the craft world is huge. So how should we move to create kind of a connection?
Just that little question. I think it's about those examples. It's about opening people's eyes. It's about bringing people over and saying what's happening at University College London or King's College London or Harvard, and showing that. I think it's also about finding the university researchers who they're like the kind of moles, you know, they're like the secret agents. So, for example, in the UK, there's a surgeon and professor of surgical education called Roger Kneebone, and he's a huge advocate of craft skills for surgery and for the education in craft. So it's finding those people. That's where you start. You find the people who come from one discipline, but then they're your spokesperson because they understand their world and they understand your world. And that starts, they're few and far between. graphene, and then you start talking about it, and you see more and more. I was saying earlier, a friend of mine from university is now a professor of mathematics at Imperial College London, and over the summer he kind of researches in one of these bits of mathematics that 2 other people in the world understand. So, you know, he's extraordinary. But he emailed me over the summer and said, well, I'm focusing more and more on teaching. I see that as well as my research is equally important. Talk to me about how mathematical proof might be a craft. So we started this dialogue over the summer about, you know, what he said, I don't know much about craft. I said, well, I don't know that much about maths since I was 18, right? So how can we start a dialogue? And he started to get curious. So you need to find, it's a bit like the happy accidents. You find the people who are interested, who are curious, and you grow it slowly, and then it becomes a movement.
Ancora una domanda dalla rete?
Sì, abbiamo una domanda dalla rete, da Giulia. Giulia would like to know, how can we create a partnership between big and small companies in Italy in order to foster innovation for the Made in Italy craftsmanship?
I don't know about in Italy because I don't know enough about the culture here. But I think if you look at the example in the tech sector of something like Silicon Roundabout, you know, like the Silicon Valley, but Silicon Roundabout in London, that's where you've got a community of small tech businesses then collaborating with the bigger businesses. I firmly believe that to get this going, you need some government, some state investment. You don't need that to keep going, but you know, in all the successful projects I've either been involved in or have seen from a distance, initially there is that state social recognition that this is important, that we need to invest in it. That gets it going, it gets the attention of the big businesses, it reaches the smaller businesses, and then you start to get momentum.
Perfetto, beh, io ringrazierei tantissimo tutti quanti insieme Anni per averci dedicato il suo tempo questa serata. Grazie a Innovation Class Society, a Banca Ifis per aver organizzato con noi questa serata, e vi diamo appuntamento. Il ciclo Mediagure è finito, ma ci ritroveremo nel 2018. Il prossimo appuntamento comunque che vi segnalo è il 27, quindi domani l'altro, con la Exhibitionist con la Fondazione Fiera Milano a Palazzo Giure Consulti, e con questo ospite che si chiama Claudia Storri, che ci racconterà come un vecchio medium, come la radio ha superato tutte le varie difficoltà, si è innovato proprio come metafora proprio dell'innovazione del cambiamento e dell'importanza del cambiamento. E poi il Digital Award a novembre a Palazzo Zimbardi con la Regione Lombardia. Grazie per la vostra attenzione e rimaniamo in contatto su tutti i nostri canali. Prego, grazie. Anni, grazie mille. Grazie. Thank you so much.